Welcome, Travis from Abbott's, who I've had the pleasure of starting to know more and more. We've had an hour discussion, just you and I, and now we're going to have another hour discussion. You're a really cool, smart dude, and I'm very privileged to pick your brain here. So thanks for joining me. Listen, you are the third generation. Your son would be the fourth generation of your family business, right? It's a flood and fire restoration business called Abbott's. That's impressive. Very, very impressive. I just want to start right there. How did your family manage to keep a business going through three generations? That's a loaded question, I know, but let's start there.
Well, I think we survived, but we've also thrived in the four generations. We started as a kind of a small carpet cleaning company in West Virginia in 1947. And my grandfather learned the trades from a lot of, Germans in the area that were into carpet cleaning and upholstery cleaning. And what happened was when there was fire and floods in the community, they would call my grandfather to come out and help clean and do things. And my father was kind of his apprentice and kind of learned a lot from my grandfather and took it out to Colorado back in the early, or I guess late 70s. And when I was born, basically we just decided to continue, hiring from the family. And I was hired as well after college. So I just decided to, get into the business. My grandfather had some tear-jerking, conversations with me, and I was, running to the forest actually, not wanting to be a part of the restoration community and wanted to be a psychologist for kids. Okay. Special needs and with kids that were at risk, and that was my background and experience in college. It was working with at-risk communities, and my grandfather's like, "Hey, you can probably use some of that psychology to make some money. Why don't you why don't you decide to do something different and not make?" Yeah, I know it's noble to be a teacher, but maybe later in your life you can kind of do that. And then I got just sucked in. My grandfather, and my dad, with the teardrops and everything, I just decided to be a part of the business. And I lived with my brother. He was a part of the business as well when I got out of college, and just decided to, kind of get my brother and my dad to talk more in the office. As a family business, it's kind of good to talk. And there was none of that. And there was just a lot of, fear and worries about what the other guy is doing, if we're doing it right, and getting the core values, into one bucket. And that's kind of what my job was. I felt like I was kind of the glue in between my dad and my grandfather and my brother, and kind of, talked about mission and purpose, which was a big part of my life. And trying to understand, the technicians in the back and getting them to feel that, the customer is the center point for everything. So if you literally can think like customer centric and kind of build out from there, the company tends to explode really fast. And that's what kind of I focused on with the techs, is just high quality education, getting all the certificates that you can to, all the continuing education, get the laundry list to become a master restorer like I did. I got every one of them. So it matters to me to actually, teach the techs in the back about education. And that's really what, the family business is really kind of really gotten better through the years, is, just focusing more on education and training.
I had the privilege to present to your team, and I think your team somewhere, they weren't all there obviously, but they told me, you've got maybe 40 people working for you. And the folks that were in that room that day when I presented SprayNet were sharp, attentive, and I could see your stamp on it, right? And you gave me a package, and you articulated quite clearly in that package, if I was going to be one of your subcontractors, your values. So did you introduce the value, articulating your values to your grandpa, to your brother, to your dad? Is that your stamp on this business?
Correct. And it's from the team as well. So when I talk to I don't seriously, when I do things, I want to get the team to have their feedback, and we do it together as a group. So as a quarterback, a past quarterback, I played for 12 years in football. I was a quarterback of the team, and I had to lead the team. So when we, asked questions in the huddle, it wasn't me just driving, home. This is what, like an ego maniac. I was like, no, what do you guys feel in a situation? So feelings kind of got to the, it's different for guys. I know, having that background experience with psychology, I knew guys were kind of, they're not emotional, beings. They don't really show themselves that way. They kind of, hide a lot of the feelings. Well, I try to, get that stirred up in people, and I want to know what they're feeling so that we can get better quality service to our customers. And the better we feel as technicians, as managers, the better our customers feel. And they, tend to get to the, reputation management side of my business and start sending 5-star reviews immediately, because they just know, hey, these guys are just angels. And they really appreciate me. And it's a hard enough time to go through disaster after a fire or a flood. You're getting somebody at the lowest point of their life, typically, besides that.
Yeah. A big word that's been coming up for me in business the last 6-8 weeks has been grace, and offering room for grace, not only to yourself, to your clients, to your team members, to your vendors, to your subs, to the 2 dogs who are trouncing around in your office, to everybody in the operational space from top to bottom. And when I make room for grace, everything's better. Imagine that, right? Yeah. Now tell me, do you write these values down? Do you articulate them to the team? Do you collaborate with the team? You post them on the wall? I want to hear what you do with them, and I'll tell you what we've done with them.
Yeah, I mean, those are all ideas. So we just remodeled our office, and so we just got a new conference center put in, and I put some old pictures of my grandfather, my dad's company up on the wall. And the next thing we're going to do is put those mission and purpose items up on the wall so we can all kind of look at them every day. So we just been so busy, not haven't really got everything handled. But I do it on the website. You can go to my website. You can kind of see that trust, compassion, stability, and hope are kind of the really the values of our business. And we really try to, do that every day when we're out there in front of customers and just trying to listen. And it's already hard enough, like I said, to go through these experiences. And a lot of people just kind of, almost like a volcano that just explode. And you literally have to just take the brunt of it when you're out there, and they'll just blame you, even though you're just the guy there helping clean it up. Yeah. You're the guy in the vision, at that point. And that's what I enjoy doing. My technicians enjoy it. They know it. That's kind of the feeling that you have when you get out to these locations, and they take a deep breath, and we teach them psychology and how to talk to customers and just understand that this is all about customers in the end. And I mean, we're here to serve others. So
yeah, what an amazing fit that you come from that psychological background, right? And the background of being a quarterback, and you're now essentially the quarterback of Abbott's, right? And you're training your team to be the quarterback of these remodels, these restorations. And I don't know anybody who will follow someone or listen to someone who doesn't have that EQ, right? That emotional intelligence, that ability to connect, that compassion and grace. So it's fun to talk to successful business owners about this stuff. It's fun to talk about a whole bunch of stuff and gross margins and EBITDA and blah, 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 blah. But this stuff really gets exciting to me, because this is the heart of it, right? This is the core of it, the why. And it just runs far deeper than a spreadsheet. One thing I learned from my integrator, my partner, Peter Straub, about values in particular is you can't have 20 values, right? 100 values. If you have 20 values, you have no values, right? You need to be able to articulate your top 5 values, and those are them. And everybody on the team should be able to articulate those 5 values. And they need to permeate the culture. They need to be articulated and expressed on a regular basis. And the coolest quote that Peter said to me is, values are something you're willing to lose money and friends over.
That's right.
And there it is, right? So I use the example of a salesman. If you have a sales guy on your team and he is slaying, he's just a machine, right? And his closing ratio is 99.999, right? And he makes you a boatload of money, but he doesn't operate in integrity. He doesn't treat crew members with respect. The list could go on and on. If he's not a match in your values, even if he's making you money, he's got to go. So are you vetting for values? Are you Tell me how you vet for values, how you hire and fire for values. Like I want to dig down in this one.
I think when it comes to talking to people, I have to talk to them about my family. So when I kind of talk to them first, I kind of, hey, this is kind of where I come from, and I push out that frequency into the universe, and explain to them this is where I come from, and see what their reaction is. And a lot of times you'll see the big gulp. Oh, that doesn't really match with what I do. And you can kind of see from square one, how they're going to react to that and what their response is in that first couple sentences. I'm really good with judging character up front. I tend to have a lot of giving, hey, I'll try, give it a try, see how it goes. And I've been burnt in the past because I have that giving mentality, trying to, give people the benefit of the doubt. And in reality, I mean, just having somebody come to our company, it's not an easy task. You come through my company, you get interviewed by a lot of people, and it's not just me. I don't do all the hiring. My company does the hiring. And we don't believe in having the boss at the top, type of mentality, waving the finger, saying this is the way it is. This is my core values. If you don't believe in this, get out of here. Well, no, I learned from some of the people in my life, and some of the people that you think that you're not going to learn from are the people that you learn from. So it's happened to me many times, and it's like me pouring judgment on people immediately and trying to hire people. The proof's in the pudding, so a lot of times you get these words, you get these resumes, and they look so good. And then you get them out there and it is a dud, a total dud. And people just talk a great game, but I'm all about action. So when I do anything, I really expect you to say something, and I want to know if you're going to be hired by my business, I want to know what the people around you are saying about you. So I typically go around, I talk to all my people about my new hire, see how they're doing, and then I throw them on different trucks too. So I don't necessarily just throw them on one truck and with one person. I throw them with different people to see how they're going to react with everybody in my business. So if it's just one person they can be friends with and they don't like everybody else, it's not going to be a good fit for my business. So we're just like a football team. If one, some guy on the sideline just bringing the whole team down, you typically just cut them out and you go from there. And that's kind of how I run my business, is kind of like a football team. So
that is an amazing answer. You don't hire them; the company hires them.
Right.
That is, I love that answer. We started doing working interviews for SprayNet for the painting business. So we would actually interview on a job site. They come to the job site. Do they show up on time? And then they're working, right? We're paying them. Say, hey, we're going to pay you for a day. Here, you're going to mask, you're going to clean, you're going to sand, you're going to degrease, you're going to do some of these menial jobs, right? And they're essential jobs. They're not menial, they're essential. And how do you react to it? Are you too cool for that? Are you above, degreasing a cabinet? Are you above scraping old paint off some siding? If you're above it, then yeah, it's not going to be a good fit. So we started those working interviews, and in our limited experience, it worked far better than the interviews, at the table, at the conference table, looking at your resume, because everybody talks a great game.
That's right.
Everybody talks a great game. Of course, you won't go to an interview and go, yeah, I'm kind of rude to people. No one's going to say that.
I know, right?
Right. Oh yeah, I show up 30 minutes late to everything. No one ever says that, right? So those working interviews have been gold. But I really like that. You're running the team like you're running a football team. You got the psychological background. It's not top down, Travis's way or the highway. And I love the fact you're putting them on multiple trucks. That's what a sweet idea. Do you do personality tests?
We did with our management team, and I had to, for probably 4 or 5 years we did it, and between 2016 and 2020, I did it for all my management stuff, and just was able to see exactly where people would feel best suited in the business. So sometimes they come in with this. Like I want to be an estimator, and then they turn out to be a better business development person instead of it. So we kind of want to make sure that we're nimble with people, so that when you kind of come in, we do these personality tests, and then we would try to make a decision if that's the best position for you. If the psychology test is telling you that, hey, you should be an office manager or something else. So sometimes it does, really help the business to do those extra tests. I just haven't done it. Been focusing on other things right now. I've really been, trying to just, stabilize the business, and that's the most important with all the cost increase and things like that. So
Yeah. How long have you been running? How long have you been the quarterback of Abbott's?
2013. So
Okay.
yeah, so I've been doing it for 12 years, and then before that, my brother, before he passed away, he was kind of the quarterback of the whole
Okay.
thing. So I worked for him for 15 years after college, and became, was a helper, a technician. Worked my way up to a production manager, then office management, AR, AP, and then became the VP of his business before he passed away. But yeah, it's definitely a family, mentoring type of feel.
I met your son. We're in a group together, Successful Synergies, and he came in and subbed for you, and he got up and spoke. And not just me, everybody was impressed.
Yeah.
Boy, he looks like you, right? He's a good looking kid, but man, he could articulate himself, and his heart, you could tell he had an amazing heart. And he told us I believe he's living with grandpa,
Yes.
right? What a deep, beautiful thing to have your son living with grandpa, who's now he's working in the business. And I mean, I don't want to make you cry here, but if you want to cry, go ahead and cry. But tell me, what does it feel like to have this lineage? And tell me about it, man.
It's a dream. It really is. I mean, I really am a spiritual man, and I believe in family being almost intertwined with God. So it's like when you see your family member in front of you, it's you're looking at a mirror of yourself basically, and that feeling, it just gets stoked up when it's your own son. And it's just like you feel like, hey, I was in his shoes just the other day, doing the same thing with my brother, looking up to him, trying to learn from him. And here I'm doing the same thing for him. And it just makes me really excited about the future. So I really think that he's an amazing man. And he's really taught me a million things too, which is, incredible. I just never thought that in a million years, my son would be able to teach me a few things. And it's just been such a blessing to see some of the, responses and feedback that I had, that he gives me on some of the things he runs into. And I'm just like, man, that just blows my mind. And it just, we get to a place, let's say we just, for instance, we went to a speed networking event for BNI, and he was there, and I'm automatically have him sit next to me because I want to have that moment. Right. And my dad, he's looking at me, he's like, I don't think that's a good idea. I think we should spread out. And then we kind of work the entire room. And of course, I'm like, no, I think I just want my son next to me. And I'm so proud of you. And so, of course, he's right. We should have spread out. And the whole strategy of him in his head was already 10 light years ahead of me. And I was just like trying to have a moment with my son. And I'm just so proud of him. And so that's kind of what he's all about, technology and AI. And robots and what's coming in the future, kind of a futurist, and that makes me really excited, about having a guy next to me like that really cares about what the customer in the future is going to look like 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And he's telling me this is what the customers are going to be doing, and like a DJ, making his little rap, and which is really impressive, because entrepreneurship is like that. You're a DJ of energy, and you're trying to deal with frequencies and people around you. Some of them are really high. People just love to work, and just, you're learning from that person. And then you have people that you're trying to pick up, and drag behind, like, hey man, come on, come follow us. We got the right idea here, and it's a little bit of both, and that's kind of my goal, is to kind of be that in between guy to try to pull people forward, and if you're doing really well, of course I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader, and I'm going to be there just clapping and just be that coach with a whistle, whatever you need, so
I love it. What an amazing analogy. You're the DJ of the business, right? And you're going to vibe people up, you're going to get them rocking, you're going to get them dancing. That is so you have a music background, right?
Yeah, I love music, and DJing was my thing in college. I did a little bit of that with a lot of hip hop. I did a lot of country dancing. So a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of country, a lot of oldies music. So I love music. It's a big part of my life. And my son, Daniel, that works at the company, him and I really are kind of like DJs at heart, and we talk about music, all the time, and which is really brings us together as a father-son team.
I love it. I come from a music background. I made my living for 17 years playing music. I played music my whole life. Awesome. I traveled the world playing the flute, of all things.
I know the best. I love it.
I do, and I do believe in frequency, right? I mean, everything is vibrating. And yeah, music is this thing that we can articulate the specific frequencies and the hertz, but everything seems to be vibing. And to zoom out a little and consider a business like a band or like a DJ, when you zoom out, everything is the same, whether you're making a band work, whether you're a DJ, whether you're building a restoration company, whether you got a house cleaning company. I was just talking to Ronnie. It's all the same stuff. Give me the parallels that you see raising families, music, business.
Well, I see that. I know you got two records going, right? You got your business life and you got your personal life. So you're going back and forth in between, and you're making the mix and you're trying to understand that, hey, when you're working full time, of course, you're going to be thinking about your business. So you're going to slide it back and forth during the day, talking to your wife, talking to your kids, sending them text messages. Hey, great job on your test, and just enjoying life in the present moment. That's what we've really forgotten as, business owners and entrepreneurs. I almost lose my breath. Sometimes I'm just like, wow, I literally have so much that I get done in one day. And if I get that 1% better each day and then, make that 365, percent at the end of the year, holy cow, I feel like Superman, man. That's where I want to be. I want other people to feel that energy, and those, it rises the ships together. If we all can kind of feel that, and then if I'm here posting on social media every day for my business, saying, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling about my business. Here, look at this picture. Look at this technician. Look at my father-son team here. Look at us." Trying to be a part of the energy of the business, taking pictures behind the scenes, and people get excited when they show up because I'm the cameraman. So they come out, they're like, "Hey, here he comes. He's going to post me tonight on social media," and they love to see their the family looking at the social media. Hey, the Travis really cares about my husband. And he wrote a special message to him. He talks to him behind the scenes, send him YouTube videos about meditation, and mantras, and teaching people, how to find the inner child that they've lost, and by doing that, the business kind of spirals up pretty fast, and I'm just practicing it myself, and it's actually worked pretty well. So
I love the fact that somebody at the helm of a nice, humming, well-respected business is talking about this, right? I love the fact that we're talking about lifting people up, increasing the frequency, sharing the love, spinning it up. I love these kind of conversations.
That's it. The heart has more intelligence, 5,000 times more than the brain. So why wouldn't we put our business forward with our hearts instead of our brains?
Yeah.
It just makes more sense. So, I mean, a lot of the intuition that I get during the day, I'll make some really spontaneous judgments, like during the day, just by using some heartfelt things that are going on in my life. Like, hey, man, I really need to make, a phone call to this guy right now. I can feel that there's a problem. I pick up the phone and call this technician, but lo and behold, he's got a major issue personally. And I just had that feeling stoked through me, and I called him, and I'm like, hey, dude, it was a telephone game that, frequency, I can't really explain to you. It's a mystery, but it happens, So.
I'll tell you, I believe in magic, right? I believe in the infinite loving everything. And you could call it God, you could call it the universe. I mean, the what we call it isn't it. It is the everything, and it's either whispering or speaking or yelling. You're getting these messages. And so if you can open yourself up to those messages, if you can open up your heart, those messages will come. I'm absolutely convinced of it. And I'm not embarrassed to say it. I'm not shy to say it anymore. Like, years ago, you'd be like, oh, don't say the word God, right? Don't say the word universe or love and now it's like, no, dude. Yeah, it's all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are all part of the infinite loving everything. And you are spinning up. You are the DJ of not only your family, your business, your life. Like, you're raising, with you doing the work you do in the manner of which you do it, you are, frankly, I think you're raising the vibration of the planet, right?
Well,
your little piece. Yeah. Your little piece of it.
We all have that duty here, and we're trying to remember who we were before, and I'm just like, I had to go through this whole spiritual awakening process, and it wasn't just given to me. I was, born I think a perfect child like everybody else. And we kind of get all these downloads and everything else, the environmental stimuluses and everything else that get thrown at us as we grow up. And we become who we are based off the environment that's around us. And that's kind of how I felt I was at that point. And then I just didn't like the way I was feeling, didn't like the way I was brought up as much. And I'm like, I wanted to redefine who Travis Chancey was. And I literally went through this huge, thing. And all my friends didn't want to be friends with me anymore. My wife wanted to leave me. My kids were like, "Who are you?" I bring my dad back. And I literally ripped out the entire software program and put a new one in. And it was the most amazing experience I could tell you. I definitely recommend it. And I actually was able to heal my family and put it back together because they were, saying, okay, I had explained to them one by one what I was doing and have that, heartfelt, third eye connection with them, and say, hey, I'm still father, I'm still dad, but I need to go through this, and in my company at the same time I was going through this process was rocketing straight up, like just like 20% growth every year, boom, 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 because I wasn't there trying to, grasp it like this and hold the, crocodile's tail and like rip it around. No, it's all about, relaxing. And my best boardroom moments were just me in meditation in the corner with my eyes closed. And the company was just, just like a tight spiral, down the field. It was beautiful. And people, when they showed up, they're like, Travis, I could feel that your energy, bud. Yeah, good job. I can tell that you're really balanced, and the way the words that are coming out of your mouth are just, it's in tune with who you are. So keep it up. And I had other friends come into my life. I had, my family members come back into my life. I had my dad come back in my life. He didn't even know who I was. And now my dad, he does Buddhism with me. He does, he has the beads, he does the candles and the incense, and he understands that the mantras when you come into the house and I'm kind of acting all weird, that there's a reason behind that, that stuff, and it has nothing to do with my ego, has everything about me helping others and using that frequency that I can it's almost like charging a battery for me. I'm gonna have to get myself recharged to be able to go back out there into the school, which is already hard enough to live in. It's already hard enough to be on this school right now, especially in these days, so it's time to really start, helping ourselves behind the scenes. So then we get into the world, we can really deal with it. It's hard enough,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a new age,
That's amazing. Give me some specifics, right? That what's coming to mind when you speak like this is, I think Ram Dass would say, love, serve, remember, right? Those three words are just kind of popping into my head as you speak. How do we do this? How did you do this? How did you have this spiritual awakening and then bring it into your family, your business? I mean, what would you tell somebody else to do? Because listen, there's plenty of people struggling. This is a challenging realm, right? Earth is a doozy.
It's the hardest of all the planets, I believe. So I think it's a privilege to have that difficulty. It's a double black diamond. If you want to put it. It is one of those. I get that. And it is scary when you look over the edge and you see what Mother Earth has in store for us. But it's a very special thing. I've been through more challenges in my life. Well, I'll just go back to maybe some specifics that challenge wise. I had a son with cerebral palsy. Maddox was born 19 years ago, dead, and he survived it. They did revive him after about 7 minutes in the hospital, and he has severely damaged ventricles in his brain that it caused cerebral palsy, and so he also has a missing part of his brain, which is his frontal cortex. So it's totally gone. So that's a challenge, when somebody throws that at you, and then you have and also a brother that passed away, like I said, 13 years ago. That's a tough challenge too. And both of those things, I wanted to die. And I asked God to help me, both times I was on my knees like this, like, please help me, and just begging for help. And same time, with sobriety, I've been sober for 18 years, so I haven't done that stuff. So, I mean, that kind of helps me as well, and that was a major alcoholic, and it was in my family, my grandfather and everything else. So my brother died because of alcoholism. So these are all major, pivots in my life, either you go this way or you do this side. So my life has been full of decisions. Which way are you going to go? This way, or are you going to go this way? And my decisions have gone through God every time. that's everything to me, so if he's in everything, he's in us.
Yeah.
Makes sense that we have God in us, right? Well, maybe with a little G, but still we feel that, that little G becomes a pretty good DJ, and can, yeah. And it can really make some frequencies kind of spin up if you can really just go out and like you are the number one person in my life right now that is practicing this is you, Chris. I mean, you really understand it and you do it more than, it meets the eye. I can't even explain how good you are at it, so, but it's just a pretty incredible background that you have. And it's really been a blessing to meet you. And it's just, hopefully we can kind of, iron sharpening iron and be able to help others more,
Dude, thank you. I mean, thank you for sharing this. I think it's essential that we share this type of stuff, that we don't hold this in, right? We don't hide this. I'm not 18 years sober, but I'm 2.5 years sober.
That's
my dad was an alcoholic. All these challenges, there's what is it? Blackalicious? Blackalicious?
Yeah. I think
the struggle is the blessing. I forget what album that is, but that gal's singing it. The struggle is the blessing.
That's right.
Now, I'm hoping what I've been able to do recently, and I say recently in the last, say, few years, is at least compress the time. I'm always grateful for the struggles later, right? I'm always grateful for, my dad years later, grateful for the, getting my face caved in years later. And I'm trying to be grateful for the struggles, sooner than having to wait.
Well said. Yeah, exactly.
For so long. I am accomplishing it to a degree. I mean, I think I told you I had a crew. They walked off a job, and these were background checked, Myers-Briggs checked, everything we could possibly do to make sure they were the right fit. They stole the truck and quit and left, and that's how they left. And my initial reaction was like, I'm going to go find them and choke them and take my truck back. Exactly. Right. I made no room for grace. I just went to rage. Right. And I said, you don't make decisions when you're mad. This is not the vibration you want to carry. This is going to hurt your heart. Like, just chill and make room for grace. And what I did is I made room for God. It's not my grace, right? It's the infinite loving everything's grace. And we're lucky to be a part of it.
I know. What a blessing.
And I was able to, within 4 hours, I was able to at least start to say, hey, we are going to be grateful for these guys stealing our truck. And we are going to be grateful for the crew we replaced them with. We are going to be. Now, the past Chris Lawhead would have dwelled in rage and anger for days, weeks, months, who knows, could be, too long. So I'm working at, the alchemy of these emotions that we're swimming in here on earth. I'm working on detaching and seeing them as the river that flows and go, oh, look at that one. Look at that rage just floating. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm working on
it. That's so well said. Yeah.
So, and I'm really interested in talking to and learning from people like you who specifically apply it to businesses where you are a steward. You are a steward of your family's legacy. You are a steward of your children. You are a steward of, your dad and your grandpa. You're a steward of those 40 people that work for you. We are all stewards of this infinite loving everything, of the gifts we've been given. So, it is a matter of how do we offer good stewardship to the people in our lives, to the things that we've been given, right? I mean, you've had some serious family challenges. You have a child in a wheelchair. You play a zone defense, right? You have more than 2 kids, right? 4. So the kids outnumber mom and dad. These are impressive and challenging things. Do you look at it that way from a stewardship perspective?
Yeah, that's how we run the business as well. I flip the triangle upside down, and then the technicians are at the top, and then I'm at the bottom, trying to balance everything, and making sure the technicians know that they are our best marketing. So having them go out and understand that, and getting the reviews and getting videos with the customer and pictures with the customer and all the stuff that SEO and all the PPC, all the Google stuff that we work on. Even the technicians know that stuff, which is cool. I mean, that's kind of the future we're supposed to be living in, is that the techs know the whole business, and they don't just good at one thing. Let's understand why you're good at this one thing, and maybe add some things that other people are doing in the business. Maybe add it to your tool belt too, and make the business more like your business. If you're out there as a technician, like, what does it feel like to have this be your company? What would you do? And most of them will say, hey, I'm going to show up early. I'm going to make sure I put floor protection down, and I'm going to do it really nice. I'm going to make sure the customer knows what the job's going to look like from start to finish. And it just having that feeling, I'm like, yeah, that's what you should do. I'm like, yeah. And then, that ownership thinking is what you try to get from every one of your employees, and if I can get them to feel like, hey, if you're an owner of a business, what would you do? They
Right.
love it. They love that. They're like, they scratch their head like, oh, yeah. I mean, and they tend to get an honest opinion, and then you can kind of wire that out. It's like, okay, I see where you're coming from. What about this? What about that? And they're like, you can see in their head as they're kind of, thinking about it. It's like a connect the dot game, and I'm just letting them, talk it out. Instead of me telling them, hey, this is the way it is. This is how you're going to do it. This is the cores, like a hammer, just hammer it. No, it doesn't work that way. And this is the human beings are not, they don't react well to aggression and fear and putting, I've never been that guy ever.
Right.
Even my dad, he was the opposite of me. He was the hammer. And I literally was like, when I knew he was coming, you could hear him coming.
Yeah.
So, and I was, and then I've always been, very disciplined because of that, but it also was very, saddened, and I wasn't able to rise up and talk to my dad about anything. I was always coward, and that was not a really good thing. I want my kids to be the opposite. I want them to be able to stand up, and just like kids, I mean, employees are the same. You want them to stand up and make their own decisions and make them feel like they're empowered, to run the business. And that makes, your business just explode. It explodes because people really, wake up. They're like, I get to have my own day today. I don't have to sit there and be bossed around by Travis, and because I was that guy before. My dad taught me all these things, how to be a good boss. And I was in my early career that guy. And if you talk to some of the people that know me, like, I did not like Travis. He was the worst guy, I had to grow through that. I had to go through all those hard knocks and people talking bad and say, hey, Travis wasn't always a great guy because he was very mean. I was very mean to everybody because I wanted things in perfection. Yeah. I wanted perfection, and to get perfection, it's hard, and I can't even reach it, So I'm getting to that point where I instead of just trying to force people why don't you just go do it yourself and show them the way, So, and I've done really well with that, and I've been doing a lot of things I've never done before in the business, and it's been very empowering to myself. I didn't realize I had this inside me. And I'm taking risks I've never taken before because I got GOD. So I have no worries. So
I love it. When you surrender to the big GOD, right? And Travis or Chris kind of gets out of the way, right? And allows that infinite loving everything to flow.
Yeah.
Magic happens. That's why I tell people I believe in magic, right? I can't explain it. Do I have to explain it? Do I have to articulate everything? I can't do the calculus of blessings, right? I can't, here's the differential equation of infinite loving blessing. I can't do it, So I can't stop thinking about this leadership perspective of an open heart, an empowerment to the crews. I'll give you a specific that I did. We call it the 1-3-1 rule. And I don't know where I learned this, on the internet somewhere, because it was never my intention to be at the top telling everybody what to do. I'm a decent problem solver. So I would get calls to solve problems. And what do I do? I'm just here to be of service. I'm here to help. So I would solve these problems. Next thing you know, I am fielding 1,000 problems a day. I simply was losing it. I don't have the bandwidth to solve all these problems. So I implemented a 1-3-1 rule. So if somebody comes to me, whether it's a partner, a vendor, an employee, whoever, I say, give me the 1-3-1. And that means they state the problem. They give me 3 solutions that they've thought of, researched, 3 potential solutions, and then they tell me the one solution that they would choose. And I tell you, 80-90% of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, we're going with their solution. It's very rare that I say, no, I got this one. I say, no, Travis, that's an amazing idea. Dude, you thought it through, you articulated it, you gave me options. I think you picked the best one. Sweet, man, you do that. And to see how that 1-3-1 has transformed, and guess what? I'm getting far less calls to fix problems. It's not a top-down thing. I love your analogy of we're flipping the triangle upside down, right? And I gave the green light to fix problems up to a certain dollar amount. So I said, hey, if you can, depending on where you're at in the companies, if you can fix a problem for $250, or $500, you don't even have to call me. I give you the green light. Just tell me how you fixed it.
Yeah, I do the same. It makes total sense what you're saying. The 1-3-1 thing, I'm definitely going to just adopt tomorrow. Actually, that's great. So that's a really good idea. So
I mean, it will create more time for you.
Yeah.
It will empower your people. They'll take ownership. They will act more like owners. They'll feel better about themselves. Like agency. The ability to manage oneself in this challenging place. And every time you get to manage a little more of oneself, you just feel better, right? You feel better when you make a decision. You feel better when somebody trusts you to make a decision. And then you start stacking those wins, right? And so we see people really stacking wins, moving up, getting better. And then another thing I do with my employees and partners is I want to know what they want out of life, right? A lot of them just want to own a house. And I'm like, I can help you do that. If you want to own a house, I want you to do that. Let's work towards that. Let me help you. You want your kids to go to a good school. You want your kids to be healthy. You want whatever it is. It's never like, oh, I want a 75-cent raise. Nobody's ever said that to me. Of course, everybody wants some more money, but why? What's the why behind that more money? What's the why behind more efficiency? What's the why behind more time? And giving folks agency. And that's what I saw at your place. I saw the room I spoke to had a bunch of people that had agency. Is that a fair assessment?
That's right.
Yeah. I love it, man.
Yeah, it's just these guys, that work for us, they have SOPs. So when I started the business, I made it look like a franchise. And so when anything that we're doing is worth documenting. So we documented everything, from the process, from the customer on its way back, to, the actual transaction itself over the phone, trying to sell them. We wanted everything to have an SOP. The estimators have an SOP. The PMs, the project managers have SOPs. The office management, customer care team have SOPs. And they all have KPIs on their heads as well. So they all know, hey, for us to get down the field to score this touchdown, we need to hit these KPIs as we go. And it's just like first down sticks. We get down to that first, okay, we hit that KPI. Let's get to the next first down stick, all the way down till we score. So having these SOPs and systems really brings more stability to your business.
Yeah.
And I really recommend it to new business owners to get really dorky and nerdy with their businesses and think like a customer. When you start a business, don't think like, hey, how am I going to make money? I'm going to be so rich and this and that. That's not going to get you anywhere. And you're going to have to really connect with the customer and actually see, what you're missing. And not always be about the positive and, hey, great, we're good. What could we have done differently to even be better next time is the question.
Yeah.
And I really want my techs to, not just be sitting, happy with all these 5-star reviews. They get these, nice spins, they get to spin the wheel and they get to make extra money if they do really well. I understand that concept, but it's like, the customers are changing every day, and each one they get up to, and they're saying, hey, how can I get a 5-star review out of this person? and making it really about that one person and not just saying, hey, I'm going to use the same thing I did last time and try to get the same. No, you have to have a customer experience with that person, and I'm trying to get them to be in that present moment and not trying to just, use the same, stuff in your backpack every time,
Yeah.
just find some, new ways of getting people to, say great things about our business,
Yeah. I tell you, I bought SprayNet about a year ago, and I came in with hubris, frankly. I came in with arrogance. I thought, oh, I'd had success in other endeavors. I'm adding this to the business. And it's kicked my butt. And as we've focused solely, maybe not solely, but when our number one focus is the customer experience, start to finish. And the better that customer experience gets, the more the business stabilizes, right? I'm not looking at margins every second of the day. I'm looking at what is this customer experiencing every second of the day. And when we do that, I mean, it's working, right? So it's funny that you say that right now, because I look up to you. You have a machine that is incredible. I went to your office. I saw all those trucks. I saw your building. I hung with your crews. I talked with your managers. I talked with your estimators. I filled out your encyclopedia of a package to be a subcontractor. Like your deal is very, very impressive. So for you to say that now, when I'm in the midst of completely focusing on, I should say, not me, everybody on our team is in the midst of focusing on the customer experience. It's good to hear. And I can confirm that it's working, right? So perfect advice for anybody, not only in the trades, but any business. Come at it from a customer experience. And what happens, Rocky brought this up at a meeting. What happens when you mess up, right? What's the customer experience when you mess up? We had somebody, we got some paint on somebody's stovetop, right? Stainless steel stovetop. And somebody grabbed, steel wool accidentally and scraped off that paint, but it scraped the stovetop. And, it's a $2,000 stovetop. There's a very nice house, very nice kitchen. And the customer experience was, we are so sorry we did this. We take full responsibility. We're going to try 3 ways to resolve it. And we got online and we researched how to fix scrapes in stainless steel. I'll tell you this. I don't know. You might have the secret sauce because you're better at restoration, but we could not fix this thing. So a week later, we went and bought him a new one. Simple as that, right? We didn't make a stink of it. We apologized. We took it, we just fixed it. And you really see who a tech is, who a business owner is, who a company is when they make a mistake. Can you dive a little deeper on that? Because I know
the mistakes come, with us as well. So when we move furniture in people's places, and sometimes we don't protect things properly, they will scratch wood floors, will ding doors, door jams. And there's things that happen in our industry, all the time. So, what we have to do is own up to it as well. And we typically just take it on the chin, so it comes with running a business. So if you guys are trying to have these hard talks with customers, good luck. The customer's always right. That's what I tell my customers, my people. I don't care if they're trying to lie to you, this and that. Just the customer's right. Let's move on to the next one, and be able to take them, in a positive light too. So I mean, some of the issues we have, those come out. I'll have separate companies that work for our business. They'll come out and try to fix the floor. They'll try to fix the appliance. They do all these things for us. I call them like Supermen. I'm like, come on, do your thing to see what you can do. And they come out. If they can't, handle it, I have to, bite the bullet, and take it. So, I mean, it's just the way business is, especially for me, it's the same as you. But we have to take care of those things. And, negative things happen to every business. If you think that it's just all just la la land and sunshine and rainbows, you're going to have a rude awakening.
Yes, you are. Yeah, and it goes back, to the struggle is the blessing. Well, guess what? Those struggles, they're coming, right?
It's not for the faint of heart. So
no, it's not. And at the end of the day, if there's a stopgap, you are it, right? Exactly.
I'm a yes man. I'll say yes. I'll take care of it. And I've always, I'd rather have it just, taken care of. I could sleep at night with my wife and not have to worry about a customer who just wants to throw mud at me. That's not the way I live, and we're on this line. Nobody's going to remember me 100 years from now. Nobody is, so why am I so important to say that they can't have whatever they want? And we made this mistake. And are you kidding me? So I just really understand that, in the big picture of things, that customer, you have, and if you make a mistake, please own up to it and take care of your customer. And just know when you do that, sometimes you get 20-fold back from that same customer. I've had customers we made mistakes with. Now they're lifelong customers because they know that I own up to my stuff, and I take care of them, and now they've been with me for 10, 20 years because they know my family is a real family business. We're not just some, fly-by-night company. We've been around since the 1940s, and that legacy, it really bleeds true in the community, and I'm a community guy, believe me. So,
well, it's not an accident that you're a third generation operator. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens through intention and hard work and embracing the suck and all, you name the saying. You don't stumble backwards into a multi-generational business that's humming, right? You earned that. You guys earned that. You just reminded me, my mechanic came. I was at the home show a couple weekends ago, and my mechanic rolls up. And I haven't seen him in years. An old mechanic that, north of here, and he's a friend of the family, and he's a great guy. And he put a new engine in my Tahoe, I don't know, 20 years ago. And there was a little clip, and I think it was like a fuel line clip that he put in backwards. And I got the new, I got the rig, drove it to the music school, and then I went outside to try to start it, and it was making this weird sound and it wasn't starting. And I was like, what's going on? It's brand new. And each time I turned the key, it was spraying something. The thing came off and it was spraying gas, and it ignited, and my Tahoe burned down. And it was this whole event, right? And I was running in and out of each store, grabbing their fire extinguisher, trying to pull this out. Generally, what I learned is when a car starts on fire, like, it's pretty darn hard to stop it from burning.
Yeah.
And long story short, he came, and I'm like, hey, dude, I drove that thing for like 50 miles maybe, and it just burned down. And he came and looked at it, and he said, what do you think that car was worth? And I said, I don't know, $10,000. He's like, no, it was worth way more than 10,000. It was worth this. And he stroked me a check for the whole truck right there and then, right? And I will never the integrity that takes, the backbone that takes. He knew he did something. I will recommend him after he's dead. I'm going to recommend him.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. Those are spiritual moments,
Yeah.
And that's when you see who they really are, And when I come down, I'm humble, I stay low. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Things happen, and I'm like, what can I do to make this right? What can I do to make this right? And then they will tell you, they'll speak from their heart. Like, hey, you could do this. They've already thought about it. Believe me, before you got there, so when you show up, it's better to show up. I show up in person. I've had, some really nasty things happen before to me, with customers, and some customers are there to kind of go get you. They like, hey, I see your trucks everywhere. I'm going to get you. And I've had a couple of those customers. There's nothing I could have done. They were just looking to make a quick buck. I've had those people, and I literally just let it go. Let it go. Yeah. Why try to hold on to it? Because you're just going to attract more of that. So I literally try to let those things go. I don't try to get them in. When people get real negative around me, I run to the forest. I'm out of here. I'm like, I don't need to be around it. If you're going to get negative, let's talk about what can we do to get better. And I believe me, when I show up to a problem in one of my jobs, I'm not going to be into the negative part of it. We're going to go over and see what we can do to get it right. Let's talk positive stuff. And you're going to know about my family. You're going to know about my business. And that's going to be a moment for me to market to you. In a moment, it should be the opposite. Like, you should be like, hey, I'm really sad about it. You just messed up. No, this is a time to show you who you are, so don't, take those things lightly. As a new business owner, make sure you get out there and handle those things and don't just let things slide,
Dude, I love you brought that up because I want to know when the shit hits the fan. I mean, this might be a Buddhist question, right? But how do you let it go? Right? What?
I tend to really reflect. So I'm a big reflector. So when I go through a big, a negative thing, a lot of times when I'm in the moment and I get with the customer, I'm talking, I'm like, hey, man, that turned out great and everything, but what can I have done better? And reflect about that. Because even the next, interaction I have with the customer may have a negative thing about my business. I want to get better next time too, on how I am. So I've been through some really terrible things, and I've, still, come out, well, because I just show up. And then when I show up and I, get the customer figured out, I'm able to let it go, which is more of a breathing thing. Letting it go and reflecting. Hey, just saying sorry to the universe. I don't. That's not the frequency we're looking for. We're looking for this, and always having that sense of intention and throwing it up. You can't really see that material stuff, that I'm talking about, but it's there. And you have to kind of keep spinning it up. That hey, the next customer is going to be a negative experience. Hey, guess what? I'm going to own up to that one too. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before, but hey, I'm going to do it even better this time, with this interaction, so that's what I've had, many in my lifetime, unfortunately. We've all had to deal with that stuff, and nobody's perfect, so.
Yeah. What I've tried, I've used many ways to let it go, right? Prayer, putting it at God's feet, asking, hey, will you solve this for me? I'm stuck in here. This little mind can't figure this one out. Can you help me with this? Will you, so put it at God's feet. Another thing I do is consider it, these are events flowing, and I just watch that. And if I can detach and just be the observer, that's another technique. Or I try to reframe it when I literally will think, how am I experiencing this challenge? Well, often I've experienced this challenge as if it's engulfing me. If it's all around me, it's very colorful. It's very vivid. I feel it here. I feel it here. I feel it, through here,
right.
I feel it through my whole body. Sometimes I'm trembling. My breath gets shallow. And so I reframe it and say, okay, here's this problem. Let's just take all this and put it right here. Okay, now I can hold it in my hands. Okay, let me just turn it into black and white. Okay, let me just turn it into a cartoon. Who was it? Charlie Chaplin said, up close, life is a tragedy, but from far away, life is a comedy, right? So I'll actually take some of these problems and I'll turn it into a little cartoon. And this is just I'm
picking your brain. It's awesome.
I'll reframe it. Because the way I'm thinking about it is what's making it for me, right? It's this thing that happened independently. And then what processing am I doing? What baggage am I bringing to this situation, right? Because other people would look at it different. They might have a better skill set. They might have a worse skill set. They might have a different perspective. So I just mess with the perspective, turn it into a cartoon, a black and white. Sometimes I turn up those voices so they're like, they're like little, like chipmunks talking to me. And I just play with it, Do you know who Viktor Frankl was?
Say that again.
Do you know who Viktor Frankl was?
I don't.
Viktor Frankl, I consider him, a master of himself. I would put him up there with other avatars that have mastered themselves, the Buddhas and the Jesuses. So Viktor Frankl was a Jew in the internment camps in World War II.
Okay.
And his whole thing is between stimulus and response is your freedom. And he was stripped of essentially every freedom you could be stripped of and still remain in this physical realm, except for what was going on in his mind. And he wrote a book called, I'm blanking on it now, but I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But essentially, he made a game of being tortured, right? He made a game of one of the games. There was a Nazi who used to like to bash him in the head with the butt of his rifle. And so he made a game that he would get bashed in the head and bump into the next guy and bump into the next guy. And they'd do a whole scene where like dominoes falling. And they did that intentionally to have some sort of control. And their whole goal was to make that Nazi soldier giggle. And they made him giggle.
Wow.
And that was their little chunk of freedom. Everything was gone except for that between stimulus and response. It's Man's Search for Meaning is the name of the book.
Yeah.
It's a gnarly one. But boy, he taught me something, and then I again, another reframe. If Viktor Frankl can make a game out of being in an internment camp, right? What can I do when there's an upset customer? What can I do when I'm having challenges with my kids? What can I do with he showed us a way. He wrote a book about it in the most extreme example you could imagine.
Well, God bless you. Well, what a great thing. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, a true master. So, and then how do you articulate these learnings to your crews, to your kids, when you're just, we're all stumbling and bumbling our way, through this life. You know how we do it? Conversations like this.
That's right.
We get on a podcast to talk about business, and next thing you know, we're talking about the infinite loving everything and Viktor Frankl and God. And I mean, I love it, man. I love it. Thank you for being open.
It's true Christianity at its roots. It's all small groups, coming around. Jesus never spoke to many, people at once. It was, small groups of people. And that's the way that Christ moves. Is much easier that way, and I think that these podcast rooms are very, special areas for us to kind of, sharpen our swords, our spiritual swords, able to, get that message out into the universe is a blessing. It's raising the planet's frequency. This heart math that we're putting together, just you and me, it could touch just another person, and that'd be enough for me. Just a person. And that person could, make a decision not to kill himself or do something crazy, just because they heard this video or podcast. So, I mean, it's those little things. That's the stuff that I think about. It's like just that one person, it could be, and make, it's just like a butterfly, whipping its wings across, countries away from you. It can have an effect, over here, those type of things is what I think about every day. When I see that butterfly, flying, I'm like, man, there's somebody in Thailand that's going to have some effect, to that butterfly. It's outside my window right now. There's such a tight, system here. And what we've always looked at each other as just being so different, and like, oh, wow, you're this way. I'm this way. I'm, this way. I'm like, the future is not that. The future is one. It's one. And we're literally going to be telepathic. I mean, we're going to be able to look at each other because we're all going to be on the same frequency and all feeling that love and, what we're supposed to be here as Christ's children. And we're going to actually be able to have that special power come to us because we're all going to be in that frequency. We have to unlock our DNA, which is coming, step by step. But it comes, from people like us, making that, little snap, and saying a couple of things to somebody, and all of a sudden that, person starts to change too. And they go off into the spiritual awakening and do their thing. But we have no control over that. We can only do what we do. And if people have some type of frequency with it, they'll stay with it. And the shaking will be like a good thing. And sometimes hey, I'm not ready for it. Then it's going to be the next lifetime, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So we have no control over those things, and it's just the reincarnation part of life. I mean, I really enjoy that part of it. I've researched my past lives, I've done past life regressions, and it's just those type of, how many business owners go into float tanks? How many business owners go into, past life regressions, and we're working with Dolores Cannon, and understanding, there is a connection to, other, lifetimes besides the one you're in, and of course I want to focus on this lifetime, but hey, I wanted to know, some of the things I need to work on in this lifetime that I didn't correct in my last lifetime. Why couldn't I do that, 50, 60 years ago, with my parents and doing all that? Hey, this is the future. And I'm telling my kids, hey, do some of this when you get older. Look at how weird your dad is. I want you to see the weirdness. That weirdness is gonna be a thing in the future. And I want you guys to enjoy, seeing your dad like this, because I'm not gonna be here forever. And I want you guys to carry this forward.
Dude, you are amazing. I love talking to you. I love talking to you, man.
Yeah, I used to have these guys come up to my house years ago, and it was business owners that were in restoration, and they would come up to my house. I told them to bring a book, and we'd sit down and we would do some journaling together. And so I sat down, I brought him up here. I let him look through my journal. First of all, I'm like, hey, look, here's my journal. It's almost like completed. I'll let you guys kind of look through it. And they all of this kind of passed it around. I'm like, wow, what are all these shapes? And, what does this mean? What does that mean? I'm like, hey, to be honest with you, I really don't know what it means, but let's make a book for you. So then you can kind of figure out what your book is going to mean for you. I can't really put words to some of the things I do, but it means something to me, and so I'm trying to stoke the Christ inside everybody one by one. And that Christos is there. It's in your spine. It's a fluid. It's there for you to play with and get it, and I want people to, find it, and be able to get that aha moment. Aha, I'm here for this. I'm like, well, that's what I'm talking about. Right? I start pumping chest with it. I'm like, let's go. And that's the real Travis is me stoking that inner light that you have. Let me get it stoked. Let me DJ that thing out of you. Because it's there, everybody's going to be there, and if you're not going to do it this lifetime, I get it. You'll get it next lifetime, but it's time to ascend. It's time to ascend. Let's be done. Let's be done. Make this your last lifetime on this planet. Let's go somewhere else and rock the next planet, and that's kind of my bigger picture of things on top of business,
Dude, you are stoking it for me right now, brother.
It's ascension, and it really, that's the goal, and I feel like that's, and everybody has that ascension. I can see it on their chakra at the top of their head and their crown chakra. I can see the light every time. Nobody's different than anybody else. I don't care if you have all the money in the world or you don't have a dime. It's all the same. It's all the same. And God, gave us that light. And I'm just trying to to at least give that love to another person. Give that love. Love is free, man.
Yeah.
Love is sometimes educational. You have to use your words and you have to use your affection. You got to love them and hug them. And sometimes just my son doesn't talk or walk. I just go over at the wheelchair, just sit there like this, just hold him like this for like 10 minutes. And I just sitting there and they're like, dude, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, no, that's my son, and he can't do it. So this is the time that we connect. Physicality is what he needs, not words, Yeah. So, and that's kind of what I kind of, each person that needs a little something, and I'll find that, and I try to give them that, and I just say that's kind of my bigger mission and purpose. It's never money. It's never business. It's never all that. It's always about the person that's in front of me. And what can I do to get, a little bit of that light out of that person, And those are the tools: light, love, light, love, light, love.
Yeah.
Those are the two swords I got. That's all I got.
Dude, those are the only two swords you need, brother. That is beautiful. You're reminding me of that story where there's a little girl walking down the beach, and there's all these starfish washed up on the beach, and she's picking them up and she's throwing them back in the ocean. She doesn't want them to. She wants them to keep going, And some guy goes, there's like tens of thousands of these washed up on the beach, little girl. What do you think you're going to do? You think you're going to make a difference? She picks up another one, throws it in the ocean. Well, I made a difference to that one. That's what you're doing.
I know, that's it. You can only do what's in front of you, And,
Yeah.
That's why, I see Christ as the center point of my life, and it's around Easter right now, which is great. And I know I'm a Buddhist, but I think Christ was a Buddhist. I think Christ was a Taoist. I think Christ was, everything mystical with Egypt, was a Jew, understand the Hebrew, he traveled around the planet with his rich uncle, was able to get to all these places because he had the wherewithal, with the money to do it, and it was done with ships, it was no walking to India or walking to China. No, he jumped on the ship. He was able to get on and he walked up to each spiritual master of that area and just became one. And that's kind of what I feel I need to do. I need to follow in Jesus's footsteps. I need to be able to go and talk to people like Chris Lawhead and see what I could do to be better as a person, and see what I could do to sharpen my light and love thing that I'm doing, And so that, I feel, we're all going to be sharper than Jesus at one point, because we're going to follow his footsteps and his teachings. And he was a true Buddhist. He was a true Taoist, and all these other religions, everything into one person, that's the special part about it. And that's the part that I worship, is the worshiping of the Christ within,
Yes. He said that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's happening now. And this is 2,000 years later. I got stoked when I was 19 years old. Something happened to me very magically. I can't put words to it, but it was very magical at 19 years old on my birthday. And it just really changed me, from that point forward on a different frequency. And I knew my mission and purpose would be different in my life. And I had to go back and do some past life regression stuff to see who I was before and all these things. And that's all going to be a mystery. And I never want to talk about that stuff, because that's stuff that it's personal in between me and my maker here in my heart, and telling other people and telling those things, that just brings ego. It's just bad things happen from that. And I'm not about that, So I've been down that road before. It is a bad road to be on, believe me. So, yeah.
So I have a board of directors, and somebody might call it an imaginary board of directors. But when I have my powwow with my board of directors, it does not seem that imaginary. So I'll go on a walk and I'll have Buddha and Jesus and Viktor Frankl, and they will be in my truck with me. They will be walking with me, and I'll ask them questions. This has been a meditation I've done, and I've done it enough that it's just a natural thing where I'm just like, well, I need your advice right now. You know what this message is? Almost always love them, keep loving, more love, over and over and over. I wake up every morning and I journal, and I lay my problems down and ask, can you help me with this? Can you fix this? This is too much for me. And for some reason, the way, you write it on the page, and then I just say, well, you just tell me, I'll get out of the way. Let me get Chris Lawhead out of the way, and I'm just going to write. And the things that pop out are, sometimes it's a row of symbols. Sometimes it's words,
That's what happens.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like a full book,
No, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're talking about the same stuff. I mean, and it's really, putting words into it, and it's just a mystery, and it's just, I don't think we'll ever figure it out, to be honest with you. I know science and faith are kind of one and the same, and we're trying to figure that out now and have a balance with AI, a balance with the robots that are going to be out there eventually, and understand, what world do we want to live in? We create this thing, the imagination that's in your head is Christ. That's Christ. It's right here. Christ didn't go anywhere. He's here now in your head. Do what Chris Lawhead's doing. Spend some time with Christ. Walk with Christ. He's there, and I literally do the same, and I really get excited when people know that, the dimension that we're in is only one little slice of what the whole thing is. The whole thing is, there's other dimensions above this that Christ is just chilling in. He's just hanging, and all you have to do is close your eyes, and those dimensions are within you.
Yeah.
That's the secret to the whole thing. It's like, hey, as far as you can go out into the universe with the spaceship is as far as you can go inside with the spaceship too. Whatever's out here is the same inside. So being able to connect that in your head, it just blows people's minds. They're like, there's no way. I'm like, well, close your eyes and stop, being a baby. The people get closer. I said, what am I thinking? What am I head? I got a monkey mind. Oh, no crap. You have a monkey mind. You literally haven't worked on yourself. It's time to put in the work. You have, crack that, code inside you, and each person on this planet has a special mission and purpose for the entire thing, So stoke it, get it out there, get out there and stop being a big wussy. Get out there and enjoy life and show yourself and be willing to get uncomfortable and take different, neural pathways in your brain and not do the same thing over and over again. It's just, that's not the life you're supposed to be living. You're supposed to be out there enjoying it. This is a golden age. 2025 is a golden age from this point forward. They say it's going to be done by 2075, the golden age. So, that's 50 years. It's time to start now in your life, And what does that golden age feel like? What is it? Once we go from a frequency of Pisces, into Aquarius, which was in 2012, that area, the frequency of the planet was changed immediately. So now we're all just starting to, get into the frequency with what, the age of Aquarius looks like, which is amazing, by the way. So it's going to be incredible, so you have to literally, to feel it, you really have to close your eyes. That's the kingdom. It's inside everybody, and when I close my eyes, it's like an IMAX theater. Now, it took me time to get to that level, but I mean, literally at first, when I was just like everybody else, monkey mind. But you started using this device I found online called the Muse. It had some technology to it, some biofeedback to it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do meditation without knowing the science behind it. And I want to know that I'm meditating. So when I was in theta, it had this biofeedback, gave me like these tweeting of birds, saying, hey, you're in theta. Well, guess what? Theta is heaven. That is heaven. So when you have that theta brainwave and people get into it, hey, that's why we're here. That's the healing of your cells inside your body. You're rejuvenating your brain. You're rejuvenating every little cell in your body when you do these things. Why wouldn't you want to bring that to your business? Why wouldn't you want to bring that into your personal life? Like, I just don't know why. Of course I want to go to church. Of course I want to open up the hymns. Of course I want to, look at the anointed one on the stage and say, hey, give me some money. I'll give you some. Oh, hey, of course we want to do those things. We did that in the past. It's a part of all of us. I feel good going to church tomorrow. I feel good. Right? It's not a big deal. I love it still, but it's not who I am. It's the church. It's the meeting after the meeting is who I am.
Yeah.
That those are the one-on-ones, the times where you can actually listen to people, and actually some people don't want to hear anything from you. They just want you to listen to them, and so you get those moments too. Less is more sometimes, so, and it's just I had to learn that art. Believe me. So
the meeting after the meeting, that's cool, dude.
Yeah, the church meetings are great and everything, and seeing the anointed one on the stage, and believe me, I know they're anointed and they really care about the other people in front of them and their congregation. But that's not the future of this thing. It's not.
Right.
That the anointed one is you. It's you, and it's you, and it's you, and it's you. So that's what we got to stoke. And not have to go to. Of course, we want to coach people and do all those things. I get that, but we don't. You can't make them drink the water. So they have to drink it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
when they're ready, when we're all ready, right?
Yep.
Dude, thank you, man. This is amazing. You are amazing.
You're amazing. Yeah, that's good. That was my second podcast, by the way. So I'm just trying to learn the ins and outs of this stuff. Yeah, this stuff. So
I tell you, just be you, because you're awesome.
Thank you.
There you go. The secret to doing a good podcast is you be you. Perfect. There you go.
Well, have a great day, man. It was great to meet with you, Chris. So
thank you. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
I love you, brother. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.